When Red Bull was discovered to have violated the 2021 budget cap in the first year of its implementation, it became one of the season's biggest talking points. The team was found to have not overspent on purpose, but were nonetheless fined $7 million and given a 10% reduction in their permitted wind tunnel time. It was widely regarded as the first major test for F1's new management, and will no doubt set the precedent in determining how a team that exceeds the cost cap limit will be dealt with in the future. Red Bull's fiercest backlash, though, came from rival teams. The Mercedes team principal, Toto Wolff, among those giving his opinion, while McLaren's Zak Brown went the furthest by writing an open letter to the FIA where he mentioned cheating. While not specifically naming Red Bull, the team took issue. But according to Wolff, it was the reputational damage that served as the strongest warning shot to all teams that the budget cap should not be tested. In an interview with the media, the Austrian was asked if he was satisfied with how the FIA handled Red Bull's overspend. Yes, I think it's okay. I think the biggest penalty was not the 10% wind tunnel time reduction or the $7 million. I think the biggest penalty was a reputational hit that the team got, and in a way it's unfair for the Red Bull mother brand, which is fantastic in their field. But the racing team has just been having such a reputational hit, and also the people. So I think nobody will kind of dare bring it close to that anymore. When the new design cars for 2022 debuted in February, Mercedes was one of the worst affected teams by the porpoising issue that afflicted the majority of the grid. The issue grew to the point where the FIA was forced to intervene on safety grounds and implement aerodynamic rule changes for 2023, a move that some teams, including Red Bull, opposed. There were also frequent disagreements about the actions of the FIA's reformed race control, which eventually abandoned its rotation of race directors. When asked how he saw the various political squabbles in F1 through 2022, Wolff, perhaps surprisingly for some, felt that they were par for the course as teams worked to protect their positions. It's all about protecting your own structure, and I think we all do that, trying to stay ahead or to protect, and a way to understand where the politics go, said Wolff. I think it's pretty normal. I don't think there were any more games or less games. Everybody kind of lives to their own standards. I think it was pretty much business as usual, I would say. While the porpoising issue puts Mercedes months behind in terms of development, Wolff believes Red Bull's wind tunnel penalty will help Mercedes catch up in 2023. We got closer. We were quicker in Brazil, but we lost many months of development just trying to figure out what the problem with the bouncing was. And that's why Red Bull are in front of us. But they have a little less wind tunnel time, so I think that will help us to hopefully catch up. Of course, the various political squabbles in 2022 were a far cry from the ferocity of last year's battle between Mercedes and Red Bull as the respective drivers, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, fought for the World Championship until the final lap of the final races. Mercedes was out of the fight at the front for much of the year as it struggled to understand the overhauled technical regulations owing in part to the porpoising issue. And even after the news of Red Bull's cost cap breach broke, Wolff was not the most vocal figure calling for harsh punishment. That award instead falling to Lauren Mekies at Ferrari and Zak Brown at McLaren. The energy drinks company meanwhile had an incredibly dominant season in 2022, winning 17 of the 22 races and clinching both championships for the first time since 2013. The team managed to pull ahead of main rival Ferrari during the summer months, but a 10% reduction in aerodynamic testing allowance as punishment for exceeding the budget cap in 2021 will not help them moving forward. When asked how difficult it would be to maintain such form given the cost cap pressures, Red Bull chief engineer Paul Monahan said, "It changes the discipline. Before we could look at aspects that might have been bigger changes and cost us more money, and we were in an enormously privileged position to be able to consider doing it. That's changed tack a little bit, so our engineering discipline has changed to adapt to those rules. What we've taken on in previous years, we just can't take on now. Monaghan saw the budget cap as a double-edged sword, as it somewhat prevents teams from changing their position in the performance ranking. However, he added, the same is true of the others. It's a discipline we've all got to enjoy. The same for everyone. Let's get on with it and see how we get on. The impact of the budget cap has prompted teams to be more cautious in their car development approach. Monaghan revealed that there were some performance upgrades which may have been introduced as a late season update in previous years that Red Bull did not bring for the RB18 car due to budget constraints. It's just a different way to be disciplined. I suppose you could ask the question in a different way. Did we make the right parts rather than the less valuable parts to keep our development rate going? Relative to our position, you would think the answer is yes. While the budget cap prevented the Red Bull team from pulling ahead even further than they had in 2022, it made little difference to the outcome of some teams. After winning 8 Constructors titles in a row, Mercedes endured a tricky campaign through 2022 as it struggled to match Red Bull and Ferrari under the new regulations. Drivers Lewis Hamilton and George Russell were hampered by the porpoising issue early in the season, but as the team worked to resolve the bouncing, deeper issues with the W13 car quickly became apparent. It was able to resolve the issues by the end of the season and avoid a winless year thanks to Russell's victory in Brazil, but had stated that it plans larger car changes for the W14 model in 2023. Toto Wolff, for one, stated that having no budget cap would have made a difference in resolving the W13's problems during the season, believing that it was simply a process that could only be completed gradually. We're not lacking the capability, or we're lacking any of the tools, nor time, Wolff said on F1's Beyond the Grid podcast. It was more that we needed to peel off layer by layer in order to get to the ground of the problem, so it wouldn't have changed anything. Mercedes initially believed it had resolved the porpoising issue with its first major update of the season, which was introduced for the Spanish Grand Prix after both Hamilton and Russell demonstrated encouraging pace. However, the porpoising issue reappeared soon after and was even present in a minor amount at the season finale in Abu Dhabi. Wolff said it was difficult to see situations like the one in Baku, where Lewis Hamilton suffered back pain as a result of the bouncing W13, but it was also difficult to see the team struggle to solve the problem, which nobody had anticipated. It's hard to see him in pain, but it was equally hard to see this fantastic team that won the championship and 6 months later isn't on top of the technical issue. We looked at it from every aspect. We couldn't find the difference, and you see your driver getting out of the car that is so stiff and undrivable that we haven't really found a solution. That was something I didn't think that would end up in such a situation. Mercedes couldn't solve all of the bouncing issues with the W13 car, according to Wolff, but the team believes it will be easier next year. We are changing some of the architecture and the layout of the car that should point us in the right direction. But as it is, with these new regulations, sometimes you uncover one problem and then you realise there's another problem underneath. We have to stay humble and not feel a sense of entitlement that we're going to get back into this championship and win straight from the get-go. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video about Red Bull Mercedes rivalry, you're going to want to check out the video on your screen now.